Just Stats, Eddie Johnson, Eugene Warren, coming to you from the lovely city of Atlanta, Georgia. And Eugene, we have kind of a surprising development here in Cleveland, and I'm not sure how surprising it is to people who felt like this may have been a dumpster fire from the moment that it was ever started, but still ending this way. And I can't say it's over, right? He's injured for the year. Clearly, this
Right.
year is gone.
This year is gone. Half year is gone next year. Yep.
Is it over though? Do you think it's over in Cleveland?
Well, you can't really say it's over because they give him so much money. You've given them so much money. I mean, I guess it
I wonder
all
how much
depends
time he has
on
left on that.
what's that.
I'm just going to pull that up. I'm going to pull up contract here and see how much time he has left on the contract here.
Yeah, it's not pretty. And then their team is not good, so you're going to have a pretty high draft pick. So I think they actually get to pick this year from all the other picks. So I mean, what do you do? At this point, do you draft another quarterback? Do you go in the free agent market and try to find somebody, or like a bridge quarterback maybe? So, but yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of money for the production that we haven't seen him good. What, like 4 years ago? That's the last time we've seen him good at all, right?
Mm-hmm. And look at here, 5 years,
Yep.
230. He has 46 this year and 46 next year. So let's see here. So he has 25 and 26.
Okay.
25 and 26. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if he's gone, you said mid next year. This year we're in 24 now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're in 24 now. So mid next year, maybe he'll have maybe a year and a half left on that contract or so. By the time he gets back to actually playing it, means he would have played approximately what 2.5 years ish or so. If he
Yeah.
plays another whole year and a half, is this the worst contract in history? I think it's going. I remember telling you when if this injury first happened, and I feel like this is going to be go down as one of the worst, if not the worst, contracts in probably sports history, but
Yeah.
definitely NFL history. Do you think there's contracts out there that are worse than what this is appearing to be? Now, the only reason I'm not saying that it's totally the worst is because there's still time left on it, and who knows? You don't know what you don't know, right? Like, what if the guy
Right.
does come back? What if he doesn't suck all the way when he comes back? Then there's that, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, I'm okay saying it's probably the worst at this point, right? Because if I don't think unless he just changes his whole demeanor and just, it's pretty evident if you watched when he was injured, it was definitely a different. I mean, don't be wrong, there were players checking on him, but it wasn't the same as when Hutchinson got injured for the Lions, right? There was definitely, that's a different feel. Again, I know it's different, two different positions, but you can just see one guy's well liked in the locker room, and the one guy's like, okay, well, we got, I guess, go over and dap the guy and make sure he's okay, and he's still our teammate. But you could just see there was more apprehension of doing that versus on the Lions side when their guy went down, and so you got that piece of it. But yeah, you gave this guy top tier money, and he's just not been. He's one of the biggest distractions that you can remember from just on and off the field situation. So yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable saying it's the worst because I can't think of, because you've given him so much money. At least when, like, let's just say Daniel Jones, let's just say the Giants part ways, they're on that hook for 1 year, kind of like that dead money. Same thing with Matt Ryan, right? When the Falcons, traded Matt Ryan, we are on the hook for that 1 year. They're on the hook for like you say, 2 more years of this contract of just
Mm-hmm.
dead money. And so, yeah, if so, do you just cut him and just like, you know what, and just kind of suck for the next 2 years and just rebuild to the draft and free agency? I mean, what do you do at this point? You just cut your losses and or is your owner just, because I think we all know the owner has been kind of driving the train because there's no way Kevin Stefanski wanted to keep this guy starting. There's just no way.
What choice do you have once the money's been put out there, right?
Right.
Once that money's put out there, you have $40 million sitting on the bench over there, man. I think that's the problem that the Giants have there in New York. You can't have $40 million sitting on the bench. You just can't
No,
have it, man.
no.
So you're stuck running the guy out there every Sunday, and I think Kevin knows that. Now a guy. It's crazy too because when you juxtapose this with the incredible start that Baker's had to his season, that's gotta hurt, right? Like you had the guy in your locker room. He's down there in Tampa tearing it up.
Yeah. Yes.
And now your guy, it's been an absolute dumpster fire. More allegations that were coming out during the year. So he was already dealing with that, right? So people who were going to try to have more allegations during the year, and then you don't even get a chance to get to that. People are talking about his awful play on the field. They weren't even discussing the allegations anymore. They were just discussing how awful he's playing, and then he catches this injury. It's just not been a great year and a half here. A lot of this of his own making. Believe me, this is the world's smallest violin over here. I'm not crying any rivers for the guy over here. I'll tell you that. Do you think it's a situation where, because I had read something that they might try to bring in like a Justin Fields, poor Justin Fields. I would not want that ever to happen to him. Um, but they were saying they might try to bring in another quarterback or something. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, maybe you should have kept Flacco around.
I mean, yeah. Look at Flacco. Look at Flacco just going to hey, Flacco's like help. He goes, any help want signs, and it's like, yeah, I'll come in and win some games for you. Like, that guy's just looking just amazing. So he just goes and wins games wherever he goes. I mean, he's been phenomenal to watch as a backup. Yeah, I mean, that would be my guess. Is you're gonna look for that bridge quarterback at this point because, like you said, you've given him that much money. I guess you're kind of obligated, unfortunately, to kind of work with him and see if you can figure it out and just kind of get some value for that. You know, I mean, that's the crazy part. It's look at Baker down in Tampa, like you just said. I mean, he is playing great. I mean, even though they lost the other night, but his numbers have been great. He's actually in the MVP odds. I mean, they're pretty high, but I mean that's so amazing that he's in his team is tied for first. Um, I mean, you can't tell me that Tampa Bay wouldn't want that, and I'm sorry, Cleveland wouldn't want that, and his teammates love him. Like the city, like Cleveland, the teammates that he played with them or wherever they play now always talk about him, and you can see in Tampa they love him in Tampa. His teammates rally around him, and again, even as bad as Daniel Jones has looked this year, he still looked better than Deshaun Watson. You know, I can't name a. I mean, maybe Bryce Young, but again, that's just an easy one. But and he was bench, so we're not even seeing him anymore. But he's just uh, again, is yeah, I guess you do the bridge quarterback, and hopefully maybe you can salvage some of the money. And hopefully he can turn it around. But yeah, you're kind of stuck with it unless you just bite the bullet and cut him and just and just do it from that. I don't know what you do.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And especially in the sense now where, depending on what this contract's looking like, I mean, you're definitely, with 2 years, definitely looks like you stuck at least for one more, right?
Yeah,
Maybe that last year you suffered through it, but it's hard to suffer through about $90 million. It's a
yeah,
lot harder to suffer through than 46 or 45, I tell you that. So you're probably stuck for the next year or so here, at least dealing with his contract. You don't necessarily have to start the guy, I guess. But if I tell you this, if you decide to leave that amount of money sitting on the bench over there, it has to be a concerted effort and conversation with you, the owner. Everybody's got to be in on it. You know what I mean? It
right.
can't be a decision where the coach just decides to bench 40, $50 million on the bench. It has to be a situation where you discuss it with everybody and everybody decides that moving forward, it gives your team the best chance to win or something like that. It's got to be some kind of united front.
Yeah,
Otherwise, if the owner wants him playing, it's the owner's money and he's playing.
right. Owner is the one who pushed for the deal. He's the one who's backed this whole thing up. So now, and again, we know rich guys with money. It's hard for them to admit when they're wrong, even when he's definitely clearly wrong here.
Yeah, man. And let's talk a little bit because since we are on the subject of money here, let's talk about a situation that is really kind of frustrating here. Let's talk about My guy here, Brandon Ayuk. Now, I had high hopes for Ayuk this season, man.
Hmm.
From a fantasy standpoint, I've had him on my fantasy team the last couple of years. Delivered. He was itching to get his money, get paid, and held out for a while. I thought I saw a little bit of that rust in the beginning of the season as a result of that holdout. It looks like things were a little bit rusty
Yep.
there the first couple of games, especially. He came into his own in I think game 3, 4, game in there that he really did come into his own there. But it's been slow the rest of the season, and then you have this with him being out for the entire season. 7 games into the season. Um, this is terrible, and there's nothing. I mean, despite the fact that it was disappointing for at least me personally, from a fantasy standpoint, and disappointing, I'm pretty sure for the 49ers to have him dropping balls that just seemed like he would have caught a
Hmm.
year ago
Yeah.
this season. The injuries isn't his fault. Going for a catch, got sandwiched. I think between a couple guys, if I'm not mistaken, and caused a freak injury. I wonder because we see this situation, and then we'll talk also about CeeDee Lamb and what's going on in Dallas. These guys get paid, and then these kind of situations happen. If you're the teams, how are you feeling? Because you have the humanity side, right? You do like the side of like, okay, this is a human who got hurt, doing
Right.
the job for us, trying to help us win. So you're sympathetic to the human being having to go through the injury process. But there's got to be a party who's like, damn man, we $120 million, we just paid it, and now here we are. You know,
Right.
what do you think
Yeah,
the teams
absolutely.
are what's going through the mind of some of these teams?
Especially 49ers, because we've alluded to the fact they got to make the Brock Purdy decision at the end of the season. So who now again, we always know that you can always put guys in the signing bonuses and spread the money somewhere, rework some contracts. Smart teams have we've seen teams do it. But you're right. You gave him all this money, and you can tell if him holding out, missing time, just messed up the chemistry a little bit with him and Purdy
The
in the
rust
beginning.
was back there, right?
Yeah. So um, yeah, that's and I remember I texted you when I drafted him and Devontae Adams, like because I was the first pick, and then the draft came back around. I picked those guys up like on and it wasn't like I was stretching. They were like the next two best running back or wide receivers in the class in the rankings. So I was like, oh, I feel like I got a steal, and neither one of those guys have produced at all. And so, especially with him, that's a frustrating thing. We were seeing him just ball out, especially last year. We're like, oh, finally, we've seen him do it. He's and the numbers have, like you said, if you look at his numbers, they've increased every year. And this was supposed to be the star year where 49ers can look at around and go, maybe we build around him and maybe we can kind of cut some of these older contracts out of here. But now now they're stuck. What do you do? It's like we don't again ACL injury. It's usually a 2-year injury, right? To get back to get back to that full strength. Yeah, they can
Mm-hmm.
come back next year, but we always takes kind of that extra year for a guy to really get back to that top tier athleticism and speed. So man, I do not envy the 49ers at this point.
Yeah, and that you compound that with other injuries they have going on too right now,
Yeah.
right? And that's a situation you got going on there. Now, something that's interesting in Dallas. Let's talk about them for a little bit here because we have Jerry. Jerry's on the radio. He went on the radio last week and had a little bit of controversy with a guy, asking questions and everything. They're saying he'll get somebody else in there, or people thought he's threatening this radio host job, and he went back on again this week, I think either today or yesterday or so. And I guess kind of walk back some of the thoughts that he had here previously in the sense of just these guys just doing their job, asking questions that anybody's going to ask. And the questions the guy was asking last week weren't crazy questions; they were regular journalist owner questions. You know what I mean? Questions are no,
Right.
they were journalist GM questions. There now, that's a better distinction. Jerry, because he operates as GM, and everything goes to Jerry. It wouldn't matter who Jerry put in any job. We all know that Dallas, anything in Dallas, in everybody's opinion, is going to run from Jerry one way or the other. It's just kind of like he's even said it himself. The buck stops with him. So Jerry, as the owner, if he was being interviewed in some of these jobs or some of these interviews, he wouldn't have to answer the same questions as a GM of the Cowboys would have to answer. But because you're one and the same, you're getting those GM questions. You're getting those why isn't Derrick Henry here questions. And then that's the one that seems that people keep seeming to bring up. I don't think he likes that question, Eugene, but he keeps getting it. Why did you pass on him? Like pass on him, like pass on him. So, it took Jerry a while to pay CD and Dak. Come down the wire here, you actually get it done, and the results totally lackluster. Totally lackluster results as of now. What is going through Jerry's head here if you're with the Cowboys? Like how are you feeling?
Oh, I mean, if you're, I mean, at least Jerry will spend the money. I mean, he'll spend the money next year if but I think it's a lot more than just CD and Dak. I think this coaching staff is they waited a year too late. I mean, you had so many good coaches out there just waiting. You could just replace McCarthy. I've never thought he was a good coach. You've got better just talent out there that could just bring that team together. Their defense is just not good. I mean, it's not it's easy to say. And they try to patch it. Like you said, with running backs when you had Derrick Henry sitting right there. He was sitting right there, and it's like it's so insane. Like that, how different that team would look if Derrick Henry was on. They would look like Baltimore, right? They would kind of look very similar to
Right.
that. Um, yeah, it's just one. I don't think Jerry he's just never gonna get out of his own way. Yes, he's always gonna. That's the thing. He's gonna spend money on the talent, but it's just I don't think he's just ever gonna get right like he did during the Super Bowl years.
It's interesting because when I'm looking at some of the stats here for last year, we still got a lot of season to go. But when you look at last year and you're looking at some of like the average of yards or something like the core QB rating for Dak, there are some issues. I mean, Dak's already got
Yeah.
6 interceptions this year. He had 9 interceptions all of last year. 69.5% on a completion percentage last year. He's at 63% now. 85.5 on the rating now. He's 105.9 last year. Um, and CD Lamb, on has to make 100 more catches to keep up with his pace from last year. He needs 100 catches from now to keep up with his pace from last year. If
Right.
you are there and you did pay guys, maybe you're feeling like, hey, I paid guys and now things aren't really working out. Maybe there was something they saw in practice. I don't know. When I saw the fact that these guys' contracts were up, everybody would think that this is a no-brainer. Then the numbers and the stats say you pay them, and you can't let that kind of production walk out the door. It seems like whether it was Ezekiel Elliott or Dak Prescott and CD Lamb now, as soon as the Cowboys write that check, that some of these players just become shells of themselves. I don't think that's going to stay the same here in Dallas, but I mean, do you get any legitimacy to like maybe Jared feeling like snake bitten by some of these past situations? Maybe that's why he's gun shy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's his own fault. I mean, but they do have that new that they're I think they're running the rookie running back that they've implemented. He's actually starting to show up, so that should really help because I mean that's the thing. You can't just patch. I mean, yes, I'm not saying you have to have a superstar running back, but you can't just patch it with guys off the just that performed like 5 years ago. And you're expecting them to come back and play like they used to. It's not going to work that way. So you got to at least have a running back. You can't just and yes, you can. Maybe you get lucky. You get two good ones like Detroit has. That's fantastic, great. Or maybe you get a one free agent when you draft a good one, but they're not even doing that. So it's it's an issue. But I mean, they're 3-3. They got a tough game kind of against the Niners, and we'll have to kind of see where they're going. But I don't think they're one of I don't think they're a playoff team. in the NFC. I think there's better teams in the NFC than them, but they're right there. They're 3-3. So, and I think it's going to be, and that's the thing. It's going to be who win 9 games in this in that for that 7th spot to get to that final playoff spot. Are they one of them? I from what I've been seeing, I just kind of think they're in that not that middle to bottom. I just don't. I think there's better talent teams around above them, and in their same. They're kind of
Yeah,
right there with them.
it's interesting, man, because they have the talent, I guess, with certain skill positions. They definitely, I mean, maybe Rico Dowdle's a guy. I guess you guys see what they're going to be looking like there at the running back position. Man, Derrick Henry looked like he would have been looked good in any uniform with how he's looking this year. He's in top Derrick Henry form. So I don't think that's just I don't think Dallas is the only team that passed on him, but I think the fact that he lives in Dallas in all season and they said would have went to Dallas is what's kind of the issue there because you were like he was right there for you to take. And
Right there.
how would he look in the Dallas Cowboy uniform right now? I mean, Jerry said maybe he wouldn't have the same success in the Dallas Cowboy uniform. I mean, maybe, but I definitely is looking like the one that got away. Now, what's interesting here going into we have the start of basketball season. And going into this year, we have new teams challenging for the top spot here of the Celtics, or like I say NFC East. I was going to say NFC. I was going to say the East, but the Celtics are the champions, overall, West and East. So I guess you could say of the top spot overall when it comes to that. Are the Knicks contenders now with adding Miguel Bridges and adding a Carl Anthony Towns?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, they're
Legit
in that.
contenders. Legit. When
Yeah,
they didn't they kind of they edged out the 2 seed I wanted to say last year, right? Like
yeah,
they were near the top last year.
yeah, yeah. And so, and again, I know a lot of people don't like to trade, but and and we can always talk about cats just mind blowing, just idiotic fouls
You
in
say
games.
people don't like the trade. Are you hearing people not liking the cat trade? Which trade are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. I don't. I hear mix, right? I hear people that like it and don't like it.
What are people saying about? What are you hearing from a negative standpoint about it?
Just his overall basketball awareness, right? How he
They don't like, so they don't like the Knicks getting cat is what you're hearing. Like they don't really like them trading for cat.
yeah, that's kind of what I hear on that
Okay,
side. Just
okay,
because of
okay.
just because we seen where he'll make the boneheaded plays, or he'll go double a player and leave somebody wide open under the basket. We've seen him do these plays over and over again. But on the Knicks side, I like it because they address what they're lacking. They lost Hartenstein, so that they lost that presence in the middle. So you got Cat, and then you got other guys that can fill up that hole in the middle. So rather than, hey, let's not wait till February, let's get the guy now that can plug that hole in the middle for us, and be kind of that in that top 3 conversation. Because right now it's Boston, it's them, and it's Philadelphia. That's it. It's those top 3 for me right now. Just from what I was just seeing, just teams, just I don't see anybody in the East that are better than those 3 teams. It's a big drop off after that, in my opinion.
So you got Boston,
Yep.
no Philly, no love for Philly.
No, I said that. I said top 3. Those are my top 3. Is Boston.
Okay, so
Yep.
so Boston, Philly, and the Knicks. So no love for the Bucks. Then is the team that's all because one of these teams is going to be on the outside looking in. It's either going to be the Bucks or Philly if you already like Boston and New York, right?
Yeah. 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 I don't like the Bucks. What did they do in the offseason that just blew you away? Name me
So
one thing they
that
did.
moves there. That
Huh?
moves there.
What's
Now,
that?
what about these guys? What about Philly? Or not about Philly? What about Philly in the sense of how close? I know you have those in the top 3.
Yeah.
How close do you think Philly is into contending versus New York contending? Because we've already established that you don't like the Bucks, right? Bucks are on the outside looking in.
I mean, I love Giannis. I
I
just
can
don't like
agree
the
with that,
team.
man. But I gotta see. Can we see what Giannis at least like what they look like? What I feel like we have yet to see full blown Giannis Dame powers, in my opinion. Right? I feel like I'm at least for me. Okay, so for me, in particular, Eugene,
Yeah.
I haven't really settled into that yet. I don't know if they haven't played enough games. I gotta go back and see how many games they played together. But I don't know if I've really settled into the Giannis Dame situation all the way. Especially with Middleton. I think Middleton's gonna be their guy that's in there with them. So I don't know if I've settled all the way into that. If I was able to settle into that, I'm giving room for that to look good because I haven't seen it. Okay, so let's just say that. That's the reason why I probably haven't written the Bucks off altogether. Because I'm
Okay.
still giving them a chance to show what they promised maybe last year, and show if that comes to fruition this year. Maybe we see that on paper. Maybe it takes teams a year or so. I felt like when Gobert went to Minnesota, it took them like a year or so before they looked a little bit better. So maybe they look better with Dame this year. I don't know. I'm not completely writing off Minnesota. I do agree with you in the moves. None made. I mean, Paul George to Philly and Cat and Mikal Bridges to New York, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
Crickets going on in Milwaukee. I get where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so my only fear, again, you and I were kind of chatting about this, texting about it offline, is is the health, right? The Paul George, and then you've got um Embiid not playing back to back games. Like you're saying, he's not playing back to back games.
I do
So
not like that, by the way.
right.
I
And that's
do not like that. I don't
yeah.
like it. I don't want that president even to be set because, I mean, at that point, you look at your predecessors, it's hard to say that medicine, science, and all that stuff has gotten worse with technology and time, right? And if somehow these guys are getting through these 82 game seasons, if somehow these guys are getting through them, it's hard to imagine that with all of the luxuries that are afforded to players these days, that you wouldn't be able to at least meet that. It's not like you're playing 120 games, like the NFL is increasing games, right? So it's
Yeah.
not like you're increasing games. You're just playing the same amount of games. So now you're telling me you're actively just going to try to play less games, try to keep yourself good for the playoffs. It's kind of like, all right, man. I mean, all right. It's I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me just being old there. I don't like it.
Well, and then look at the opposite. Look at New York. I mean, look at those guys, how they, I mean, how they played so hard. And again, injury just killed them at the end, but it was, I mean, I mean, they gave Indiana everything in that series. And every guy was out there busting their hump. And you just like that was like one of the best series from what I remember from the playoffs last year. And I mean, I just don't see that coming from Philly. I mean, I love Maxi. Now Maxi can take his game to another level, and it kind of whitewashes, you know, the time off that he takes. But it's
He's still kind
just
of a young player, a young developing guy, man.
what's that
He's still kind of a young developing guy. He's
exactly?
still coming
So
into his own a little bit there.
yeah. But that's my only. And like you said, and you have to always factor in the Giannis factor, right? He's a freak. That's his obviously his nickname, and he's the most competitive guy out there. So he'll will that team to more victories than they probably should win. But it's and like you said, maybe with Dame did let it slip that he didn't work out because he thought he was going to get traded.
Did he
You know,
say that?
before the trade, he did not work out, which I'm like,
What?
I get it,
Oh
but
man.
you didn't shoot the ball around, you didn't do this, but Middleton's already injured, so they haven't, like I said, it's still an older team, but they still like you still have one of the top NBA players on your team, so
Yeah, and I'm hoping. I guess we're hoping upon hopes that we get a chance to see at least a team at full strength. Man, maybe they suck, maybe they don't. But at least I want to see what it looks like. If nothing else, let's see what a good Middleton, Dame, Giannis team looks like out there. And like I said, maybe they still suck. Who knows? But it's better
yeah.
at least to see it. And what else going on here with the home team as we wrap things up? Now, no, this is interesting. I feel like this is kind of a put up or shut up year here for the Trey Young situation. We're going into what year 6, 7 here, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
A lot of different co-stars switched in and out. A lot of different coaches switched in and out. I wouldn't have minded trading him this last year, but I kind of wanted to see what it looked like with him and whoever we got as the number one pick before that happened. So I'm still team Trey until for this year we'll see what happens with this new team. I haven't really seen our number one pick out there though. I didn't. Is he coming off the bench? Is he not starting? What's going on there?
I saw him like a preseason game. He looked pretty. I mean, he looked as advertised. He's gonna bust his hump on the defensive side of the ball to get into games. So I think you're gonna see a lot of him on the defensive side. Um, from the
Is he starting?
small sample size, he seems like he's gonna be good, just a good defensive player. Which again, not I can't knock that. We definitely need defense, especially if Trey Young is back there. We're gonna have to we're gonna have to have some rim protectors and wing defenders. So that's why they brought him here. Or that's why they drafted him, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking because he, I haven't seen him in a couple of the preseason games that I've watched. I'm hoping to see him. I'm just hoping that he starts. I don't want to draft a guy number one and have him coming off the bench, man. I don't know when in last recent memory I've seen that happen. I know it happens maybe in the NFL, depending on even then these days, people still if it's a quarterback or something they want to see, which usually it is the number one pick. They want to see you started. It's hard to sit a number one pick, I think, in any sport. But does he sit? Do you think he sit? We sit on like is it a chance that our number one comes off the bench?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know who he would start again over. I mean, he hasn't. I
That's
mean,
the issue too, right?
yeah,
Like
there's
Not over Bogdanovich, right? Not
yeah,
over JJ, who we just signed. Shout out to JJ Dylan Johnson, new contract. I want to say $150 million there,
yeah.
5 years, lock the kid down. So he's starting for sure, right? Trey's starting.
Not starting over
Um,
Hunter. So you're running out of spots.
he's not gonna start at the five, right? He
No,
started at
no,
four.
you still
Maybe
got
at three,
Capella at the 5.
right? Two, three, four, somewhere in there. I think he can play all the three of those. He looks like he got the body type to play it too, but looks like maybe it's more traditional three, four, maybe.
Yeah, I see more of the 3 from him, but yeah, I mean, that's not a death sentence. He's coming off the bench, but I see what you're saying. Number one pick, you don't want to see him there, but I don't.
What's the last number one pick to come off the bench?
I mean, there's a lot. I don't think there's. I mean, I don't,
Is there who was the last number one? What was
that's
the
a really
last
good
number
question.
one pick that actually came off the bench? Because I'm thinking, even if you got to go back to the Anthony Bennett's of the world, right? Even if you got to go all the way back there around the time that Anthony Wiggins and all them were drafted, I'm thinking about what the excitement of the number one pick brings, right? The number one pick tends to bring a certain amount of excitement, and usually that excitement comes with you seeing that player starting in that season. I think Anthony Wiggins started, Kyrie Irving started. We're going all the way back. Because people like your Wemby started for sure. There's
Oh
no
yeah,
mystery
but
there. Um,
but this has historically been one of the worst drafts. So it's not. I don't know. It's like
you drafted
this
it.
is
I feel
like
like some of these other guys are gonna start though. Maybe because they're going to teams where they're needed to start. Maybe that's a situation like they're more needed to start on their teams versus this guy starting for us here. We should say.
yeah, yeah. And again, I don't think it would make much of a difference if he starts. I don't have too much, and I think you and I kind of listen. I don't know if we have too many high hopes for this team. But again,
Yeah,
we can't be
I shared
terrible.
the 125 win projection. You saw that 125 win projection?
The 36 wins projection. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
I'm not
I saw
surprised.
I've seen some pretty low projections for us here, man. People definitely have us extremely below 500.
Yeah, and that's where I don't want to be because if we can't go too low because San Antonio has their pick. So I mean, we don't want to be like, oh yeah, the I mean
Is that for the Murray trade?
yeah,
Ah, wow, wow. Yeah, I mean, uh, that's depressing. That's just outright depressing. Now, I can't even sugarcoat it, Eugene. That's depressing. Coming in for the home team. This would be hope it's supposed to be spring and eternal around this time of the year. If it's not spring and eternal right now, I mean, without seeing some more action, it never gets better. So I was hoping for at least around 500. That because that's what we've been pretty much the last few
I mean,
years,
that's what
right?
we've
I think
been. I
maybe
mean,
we
I'm
got the
not
first
right.
overall pick.
I'm
Maybe
not
we stay the same, but we did lose Dejounte though, so that could be the situation.
We did, but at least we got some good bench players back in the trade for him, and we got a pick back for we got back in the first round for next year. Um, but yeah, I mean, 36. Let's just say, I mean, the win projectiles keep seeing, and I just checked it again. It's still 36 on FanDuel. Is
Mm,
and it's not like it's that the under. It's like it's not like it's minus 125. It's not like it's not like it's a crazy number. Um, and so they even know it's like, well, this Hawks team has been a 500 team. So if they go 41 and 41 and 41, it's not, we wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we wouldn't be shocked at all from this team
right,
because
right.
it's not like they don't have
More of
talent.
the same.
It's not like it's not like Washington, right? It's not like it's not like that team. That's a team is going for the tank up Palooza this year. At least the Hawks have talent. That's the difference.
We will leave that there. This is Just a Stat. Check us out. Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, as well as YouTube and TikTok. See you later, ladies and gents.